and welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Danny Kanell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where we will get to comments from Michael and Brad, Emperor Fabulous, Jared, and more. But I wanted to highlight Wayne, who jumped into the tailgate, pulled up, and said, "Happy Father's Day, fellas." Happy Father's Day in advance to both of you gentlemen. Wayne says, "I'm currently on day 5 with my 16-month-old while mom is away. If we both make it out in one piece, it will feel like going 16-0. What is the husband/dad equivalent of 16-0?
That's a pretty good one. I would say
5 days with a 16-month-old is like truly going through the rigors. Like you need competitive depth to be able to get through 5 days with a 16-month-old. You need to be able to overcome adversity. Like there's going to be some setbacks. You're going to need your backups to be able to come in and be able to help you out in some places.
There's only one thing I think that would top it, like from a strength of schedule perspective. If you're throwing in traveling alone with either one or two, like multiples, but even just with one 16-month-old, that would be the equivalent. Like and that could only be a day trip, but like making it through a plane ride, getting through security, keeping them happy, that could do it.
Shivering at the thought.
I did play 18 with both boys the other day.
Wow.
With no iPads.
That's great.
But that's fun. That's rewarding. I mean,
but that's still a challenge. Like that is
a challenge.
That is not easy.
That's Ohio State, Texas in week 1.
Yeah,
like you sign up for that. You know, like that's what
some holes are jump out holes and some holes are stay in the cart holes.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you guys want to jump in these sand traps sometime, like I'll rake them. That's cool. Like, get back in. Some holes we're staying parked in the cart. You gotta,
But if you run over there, you're getting hit by a tee shot.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you gotta,
head on a swivel.
He did get lit up by a wasp though. He's like, I go to the bathroom. I was like, trees over there. Chose a palmetto bush where there was a wasp nest instead, and so that was tough. That was on 18 though.
Minute 3 is a little early to get graphic, but he didn't get stung anywhere compromised.
No, on the wrist. Yeah.
Looking for a PP tree, it's going to get a little dangerous out there. Yes, any kind of travel. I mean, I would not wish this on anybody, but like any kind of, sickness, anything that's going to break the rhythm a little bit. Like if you overcome that, you've been able to get through. So Wayne, happy Father's Day. You're crushing it. Day 5 with the 16-month-old while mom is away. I'm glad that you're spending some time with us here on the Cover 3 podcast. Happy Father's Day to you and to everybody else in the Cover 3 tailgate. All right. We have loads of mailbag questions. If you've gone and left us a 5-star review and in that review put your question, that's gone in the big old bag of mail. As I mentioned earlier, we got some great comments from folks in the tailgate, including comment from yesterday, which will keep things moving. And I think that's where I wanted to start, because one of the comments that we didn't get a chance to get to during our strength of schedule on Wednesday, where we had top 5 toughest schedules, top 5 easiest schedules, all of us put together our list. We had a good time discussing it. How do you think strength of schedule will play a role in the 2025 playoff race? We spent all week combing over these. I know that both of you mentioned that one of your approaches to putting together your top 5 list was thinking about it in terms of how this would impact trying to pursue making the college football playoff. As you were looking across it, Bud, I'll throw this to you first. As you were looking across the different teams and the different schedules, could you foresee in your crystal ball any topics or schedules that would give us an Indiana or an Alabama on the other side, an Alabama, like those sorts of topics?
Sure. So I think, this whole argument from the SEC is ridiculous, that the schedule strength was not given consideration. It was. The fact that Alabama or Ole Miss or South Carolina were considered at all speaks to the amount of consideration, like the fact that the committee did actually give a lot of consideration to their the strength of schedule there. The problem was you had Indiana, which had just one loss, and you're trying to comp a 3-loss team to a 1-loss team, and some of those 3 losses are either like to a legitimately pretty bad team, like Oklahoma, or in blowout fashion, like South Carolina got blown out by Ole Miss. Whereas Indiana hung pretty competitive and oftentimes took care of business and blowed out, or they were blowing out teams themselves. So, do you think the SEC is going to try to push to make their 3 equal to your 1 loss? I think that's what they're trying to get. I don't think the committee is going to give that to them in most cases, though, and nor do I think it should. Maybe they'll start to use more strength of schedule metrics, I guess, but I think they already use some, right? I think Indiana can still happen, and I don't think that's a bad thing for the sport, right? Do you really want to see 9-3 Bama in there? No.
Not at the. I mean, I don't mind 9-3 Bama if everybody else has 2 or 3 losses.
Correct. Yeah.
Not exactly. At the expense of losing a team that won 11 of its 12 regular season games.
Don't get whipped by Oklahoma in the final month of the season. I'd be more amenable to the argument, I think, if Bama started out really poorly and then they came on like gangbusters in the season. And I think that probably, maybe not should be, but certainly could be a consideration for the committee in the future. Hey, who's playing really well right now? Who's getting a lot better throughout the season? Who's shown improvement? But I mean, if you're still screwing around and losing to a team with no receivers, no line in week 10, what are you doing?
You're going to hear so much campaigning this season because of what happened last year. It's going to get ridiculous. But I do think the one thing, because I agree with you guys, it's not the losses, it's who are they to as well. I think there can be such thing as a good loss. And if you have 2 good losses and that's it, then it's all right. Then you can get a pass for those if you're losing to other playoff caliber teams. That's where I think Miami got a little bit hosed. Now, I know coming down, you can't lose late, but I think losing to Syracuse isn't that awful. That was a team that ended up being 10 wins, and they didn't even get considered at all. And I'm not making the case for Miami, but I just think across the board, that's what you have to consider, the caliber of the loss. Is it something that will keep you out? And losing to Kentucky at home, got Ole Miss left out. Losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, both of those, if they would have just won one of those, Alabama's in. So those were bad losses for them. The Georgia loss, no one said, there you go, you're out, or they beat Bama, or they beat Georgia. But for Georgia, same thing. No one said that's going to keep them out. There's losses that I think you have to weigh differently. I think there's good losses and bad losses. Maybe that's part of the strength of schedule discussion as well, but I think it should be that way. You should be penalized for losing a game that's not an opponent you should have beaten by 2 touchdowns.
And they already get the benefit of the doubt when it's just a 1-loss difference.
Right. All the time. Yeah, that edge is going there no matter what.
Yeah. Can we do a little thought experiment?
Sure.
So let's say Texas A&M knocks off Texas in College Station. Texas then, I guess they would not have made the SEC title game. I was trying to think, if Texas's 3 losses were Georgia, Texas A&M on the road, are those 3 quality losses?
We'll throw in Ohio State. What if they lose to Ohio State and they lose to Georgia and they lose to Texas A&M? That I think would probably be, good. Well, it depends on what Texas A&M ends up being.
Yeah. I guess the flaw in what I was just trying to put together is I don't know if Texas would have made the SEC title game to have another game against Georgia.
You're saying last year.
Yeah, I was saying last year.
Gotcha.
I was going through and looking at that through, through the lens of Texas A&M, they didn't look awesome, especially coming off of not being able to get a stop against South Carolina, not being able to get a stop against Auburn. That was a tight game against the Longhorns. If that had flipped, is Texas looked at in a different light?
And Garrett brings up a great question. What was there? And I asked this question a lot last year for Texas. What was their best win?
Oh, that's right.
What if they're losing those games and their schedule is a little bit lighter? Where is that win? I do think that matters too. And that was something that came into play with Indiana, but they only had the 1 blemish.
It is interesting to sort of compare the preseason win total odds with the preseason to make the playoff odds.
Ooh.
For instance, Bama is 9.5, basically even juice, right? But to make the playoff at FanDuel, they're 150 yes, 120 no. I just have FanDuel pulled up. So there are other books that
also
have this
because they make every moment more.
This is correct. All right, so let's take a look at maybe a more profound one here. Florida, right? So Florida is 7.5 wins plus 118 to the over. So, very slight lean to the under. People think they're going to go 7-5. To make the playoffs plus 420. Now, if you kind of take and do like 50 cents for a half win or 60 cents for a half win, and you went ahead and take that math up, right? We're adding that, and it kind of compounds upon itself. I think that this implies that Florida is likely in if they go 9-3.
Well, I mean, it gets the number one toughest schedule in the country.
Right, exactly.
According to everybody but Chip Patterson, apparently.
Georgia's a more interesting one, right? Georgia's 9.5. To go over 9.5 minus 150. To make the playoff minus 250. That's a pretty significant benefit of the doubt being given to Georgia to get in.
Georgia goes 9-3, that they'll be in.
Right. Which is really interesting.
That's the market. That's got to be the odds makers factoring in the lessons that Kirby Smart is Nick Saban. That if we're going to have a human committee have to make a decision, just like they did in 2023, they are going to make a decision that favors Kirby Smart in Georgia, believing that is the best coach in the sport right now, the program that's running the hottest.
But I really don't think that this makes a lot of sense in this one because Georgia, if they're going to have 3 losses, it's pretty overwhelmingly likely that all 3 would come in conference. The Georgia Tech game is technically a road game, but it's in Mercedes-Benz, so not exactly a hostile environment for the Dogs to play in. And you look at this, so you're either going to accept that they're going to go that 9-3 gets them in against that schedule, and I'm not really sure that it should, but I think also implied here is maybe like they could win that 10th game, go 10-3, and be SEC champions. But I don't think it's real likely that you make it to Atlanta for the SEC title game if you have a 5-3 conference record this year.
I would agree with that.
So I don't know if Georgia's super safe with 3 losses.
Oh,
now, there is a possibility to lose to Georgia Tech, obviously.
Right. No, though they're safe because they're going 11-1 against this schedule.
Right. Now, Raymond in the chat says Georgia could have made it last year at 9-3 with a loss to Georgia Tech.
Because then they would have had the opportunity to win the 10th game, like you just mentioned.
Correct. Yeah. That's exactly right.
We also won the SEC though, too.
Right.
Well, I think that's what we're implying, right? Like,
right.
If you win the SEC, obviously you're going to get in because of the conference championship. Some of these are interesting. Like, if you want to just flip conferences, maybe to see the other side of it, and I don't want to derail the show. I know we got a mailbag. I was kind of geeking up with this morning. I thought it was.
Did you guys see? So I've been blown away that Brett Yormark has been like, yeah, we want the most deserving. Like, I think that is the worst argument you could make is we want to earn it. I think it's going to kill him.
Yeah, but he can't take the other way, Danny.
So here's what I thought was interesting. Now he was on with Rob Stone. I saw him on the Triple Option, and he said that he thought that yes, he said, I realize where we are, like in front of the hierarchy. He said, but with the House settlement, he said, we're hoping that does bring some promised parity. Do you think they're banking on that, and like they're misplaying it, or do you think they just cannot bow down to the SEC and Big Ten? Or do you think
that will bring less parity to the league? I'm not sure it is going to close the gap that currently exists. The thing is, Yormark cannot accept the auto bids because then you're saying our league, like you are admitting what we know to be true, which is like our league at the top does not have like championship quality teams. So we're going to accept half of what you guys get. Man. It's just, it's kind of brilliant by the SEC and the Big Ten to put that out there because he can't say yes to it.
So what if it was the 14? Do you think they would have said yes with the 14 team model? Where there's just one extra and you got a chance for that third, even though we probably know it would go to Notre Dame, and then it's just straight 4-4-2-2? I think that was the worst. So because the 14 model just got kind of glanced over, like that was, and for a while it was going to be 14, and then they just skipped over this and went to 16 because they wanted 3 at large.
Right.
And I think that's where you're worried about Art. If we go for that, could be 7, even though they're probably going to get that anyway. I think they're misplaying this. I think you should have signed up for the 4-4-2-2 and pushed for 14 and said we don't need any bigger than that. But
wasn't that part of Florida? Didn't Florida State get mad at the ACC agreeing that they were lesser than? Like in the agreement that where the ACC was like, yeah, Big Ten and SEC, y'all can run the show. Whatever that was in terms of the loose framework for setting up the next 6-year deal for 2026 and beyond. The idea that the ACC would only further, put that conversation in place. So what you're arguing is that the genius is Big 12 and ACC leaders will, if they admit to 4-4-2-2-1-1 or 4-4-2-2-1-3, either one of those situations, they are admitting that they are lesser than. So then they come forward with 5+11 and agree to that, even though that'll leave them with just like one team in the college football playoff.
Yeah, you just can't admit you're inferior. It's just not going to. Yeah.
God, alpha moves at the highest levels of college sports.
Yeah. I would push for Tom brought it up the first time. I would push for a cap from how many teams you can get from, just so there's a limit on how much you guys can dominate a playoff.
All right. So Indiana, right? Over 8.5 wins, plus 122. Indiana make the playoff, plus 630.
That's such a crazy number. I'm just
right. But basically it implies that Indiana has to go what? Like
11-1.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And their schedule right now, if you're watching on youtube.com/cover3, ODU, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, scheduled like Indiana does, which I support. I think that's the right move right there. Stack as many wins as you can earlier in the season. They have the toughest games: Illinois, Oregon, Penn State, no Ohio State, no Michigan, though you do have road trips there for Oregon and Penn State. Then you also have to go to Iowa. So 11-1 against that slate does not look promising.
Oh, you don't think 11-1 with that is in?
No, 11-1 is. I'm saying it's not promising.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's
likely.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I don't think like last year there was a lot of debate. Like, should they be in? And I mean, I think this year if they went 11-1, it'd be locked. Now, Michigan was a massive surprise of how bad they were. And I guess if Oregon or Penn State or one at Wisconsin or Illinois like fell apart, it wasn't a good win. But I think if they were 11-1 in this, they're a lock 100%. I don't even think there's much argument.
I'd agree with that.
Ryan thinks 10-2 with a win at Oregon, lose at Iowa, and lose at Penn State, they would be in.
Maybe.
I think unfortunately, last year's results, which we shouldn't be playing, would hurt Indiana's chances.
Totally.
In the situation that was laid out there, would 7-2 conference play have them in the mix for the Big Ten title?
Depends.
Probably not, because the head-to-head against Penn State, you would need like a 3-conference loss Ohio State.
Well, yeah. Never. When's the last time we saw a 3-conference loss Ohio State?
Correct. Yeah.
That hadn't happened in a long time. Again, like this is the big monster. These are the conversations that are going to continue to drive this thing. Yeah, strength of schedule is very, very much at the core of the college football playoff race. It's why people enjoy talking about it. It's why they're able to jump on and yell for 1 hour every single Tuesday night. And we are too. Yeah, we absolutely love it. All right, let's go to a fun part of strength of schedule. Okay, let's make this
JJ
fun.
Spawn is dialed in, and I'm loving it.
He is. I got him in our Calcutta last night. Very excited.
Listen. The problem is I can't show JJ Spawn a scoreboard to psych him out, because at the U.S. Open there's the giant video boards on every single hole. So he has been very aware of where he's at. Luckily, we're only on the other side of him for a 72-hole matchup. So therefore, I've got a lot of time for him to start feeling good about himself. Yeah. All right. Coming up on the other side, let's make this fun, okay? Richard jumped into the tailgate yesterday, loved this comment, and so I figured that it would be a good one to discuss. We're not talking about strength of schedule with the college football playoff or strength of schedule with the win total. Let's go to the fans' perspective. If you could buy season tickets for one team in 2025, who would it be? We'll get into all that and more next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! No! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
back here on the Cover 3 podcast. And as we were breaking down the tough strength of schedules, our friend Richard, a frequenter of the tailgate, he's basically got a parking spot locked up with his name on it. I mean, he's parked an RV out there, and we don't even make him move it. You know, he shows it. That's the appreciation we have for those of you who are always out here in the tailgate. And he asked if you could buy season tickets for one team in 2025, who would it be? I've got two.
You have to root for them?
Ooh. No, I was just going for like just general.
Right. Great matchups.
Great matchups. Like the kind of things where I get excited about I get as excited about watching the games, you know, either here or in studio or the opportunity to go to them, like any of those. I was just taking a very college football approach to this. Actually, I got three. You want me to just let it rip?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Let me message Mikey here to be able to help him out. So the first one that I'm looking at is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Okay. Okay. So Notre Dame, just 4 starters, has 7 home games. So if you are buying season tickets, that's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it at least is going to be able to give you some solid games. Okay, you've got the opportunity to see Texas A&M come to town. I think that Boise State game is super tasty. And then, of course, you get USC, which might be, I don't know, the last one, you know, or one of the last ones that we get to see in this slate. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame for quality. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the Georgia Bulldogs. We remember that Kirby Smart stood on that stage and he looked Greg Sankey in the eye, and Greg Sankey did not look back. Gregory was not happy about it as Kirby was out here saying, "You all tried to send us on the road, all them places." Well, now everybody's coming to town. So if I've got Georgia season tickets, I do have to get through Marshall and Austin Peay, but look at these SEC home games. We're talking about a visit from Alabama. We're talking about a visit from Ole Miss. We're talking about a visit from the Texas Longhorns. And then I know that Georgia Tech game is not a home game. That'll be in the Big Body Benz, but hey, who doesn't mind a nice evening out in Atlanta? Okay, and then I got one last one. Is that cool, or do y'all want to jump in?
No, please.
Okay, last one here. The Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Because with Ohio State, if I buy those season tickets, I am going to walk right in. I'm going to give a big high five to Big Nut, and then I'm going to take my seat because we have Texas coming to town in one of the biggest games of week 1. Again, we're going to get to know the freshmen a lot as they proceed to play Grambling and Ohio. Minnesota, you know, is not always going to scratch that itch, but then you've got Penn State coming to town as well. I think that when you've got the Texas game, when you've got Penn State kind of as your anchors, those sort of provide the best amount of juice for that really got me going when I was trying to think about if I was to buy a full season ticket booklet, I would be going Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State.
I thought it was Ohio State, like by far for me, because the energy is going to be awesome. They're going to be really good again, but also you get to see stuff you don't get to see on the TV copy, like Caleb Downs and how he moves out there. Like that's fun.
Ooh.
And like that, like he's off screen most of the time when you're watching TV. Like you see some of the replays of the highlight stuff. You also get to see a guy who's, you know, kind of off screen depending on how zoomed in they are in Jeremiah. So like to me, Ohio State was the one. If you get to watch probably the best defensive player in the sport and definitely the best offensive player in the sport on the same team, like every week. That's pretty cool.
Also, as I was doing this, I realized that I was picking spots where Texas was on the road, which I guess stinks for Texas because, you know, some of these awesome games that you're so excited about are not going to be taking place in Austin. Maybe I'm not a Texas home game season ticket buyer this season. Anybody else y'all would add to the conversation?
Yeah, I'm tired of all this blue blood stuff on here. Just Big Ten and SEC love. How about the schedule? I think this is a fun one. Baylor. The Baylor Bears start off at home, 8:00 prime time against Auburn.
That's a great game.
You got to sit through Samford, you know, get a little stat pattern. Then they have Arizona State coming to town. Game. They have Kansas State coming to town. They have UCF coming to town. Utah coming to town, and followed it up with Houston at the end of the year. So you celebrate a big season, potentially getting to a Big 12 championship. I think Baylor's schedule looks like a ton of fun because also you don't have to sit through many blowouts in the Big 12. Like most of those games are going to be competitive. It's always a good time out there. So I thought Baylor's schedule looked pretty attractive. Great
I have
matchup.
not been to Waco, but the stadium environment looks fun.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Like just sort of like the scene, the setting. I mean, that's
what is it? The Brazos
on the Bravos
river right there. It's great.
Bravos or Brazos?
I don't know. I know
Brazos,
it's the river,
right?
but it's great. And then let the kids run in. Like when they open the gates, they all sprint to the student section. Yeah, Waco's a cool little college town.
Do they have sailgating?
They do. They do have sailgating.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to run out there with the Baylor line. Let's go. Baylor Bears. That's another great option right there. I have what would you do, Florida State?
You get Bama and Miami.
Right.
And then if you really thought that Vatek was going to be good this year, or you really thought Pitt was going to be good this year, then maybe.
I think those games will be competitive. I mean, those teams aren't awful. Yeah,
no, I agree. I just don't think it stacks up. I mean, this is kind of why you want out of the ACC.
What are you talking? Okay. Famous last words. I'll tell you what, Eli Holstein's coming for that ass, bud. He heard you called him a tight end. It's year 2 of the Cade Bell system.
Shoot, if they keep going what happened last year, they'll be on like a 9-game losing streak, right?
Yeah. Start 7-0, finish with 6 straight losses along the way. All right,
clock strikes midnight.
Let's turn to the tailgate. Our friend Michael at 8:45 a.m. jumped in and said the last team to three-peat was Minnesota back in the 30s. If you had to put a paycheck on the next team to do it in the next 12 years, who are you placing that wager on?
Ohio State.
Yeah, it's easy.
For sure.
Because you already got one in the bank, and there's a chance.
4 years of Jeremiah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ohio State and now.
Yes. Right. Like that's definitely the one I want. Going back to the schedule thing real quick. Who in the chat? Nick F in the chat. Really good call here. So Washington hosts Oregon, Illinois, Ohio State, and I think there's one other good game they have. Like that's pretty cool. I can also, if I live up there, I can probably make the trip to the Apple Cup, which is fun. Like that's a pretty nice schedule right there.
God. That's a real good schedule.
I mean, Purdue and Rutgers, maybe I'll sell those games or give them to the Boys and Girls Club.
Stay out in the boat a little longer and
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we'll be watching that one real close from the boat.
Yeah, and you can leave early. It's going for a little bit.
Cover three podcast, home game, deal breaker. Can we get on the boat before the game? If the answer is yes, you're automatically shooting up in our book. That's awesome. So for those listening, Washington's home schedule, Colorado State, UC Davis, but then Ohio State, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, Oregon. Those are games with stakes in a big year for Jed Fish. Big year after going 6-7 just last season. Let's keep it rocking. We'll keep it on the schedule. Emperor Fabulous. Ohio State and Georgia have to be two of the best home schedules for fans. Both get Texas and Penn State, then Alabama respectively. Iowa with PSU, Oregon. Okay, that was basically what we just ran down.
Georgia's a little tricky though, because if you look at it, it's going to list Florida and Georgia Tech as home games, but they're not.
But it's Jacksonville and Atlanta in the big body pens. What about this one? How do SEC fans feel about half their home games being against Western Alabama High School and Louisiana United FC?
Good one.
Let's go, Jared.
Oh,
that's great. Yeah. Great call.
What is that? I mean, that's the take the kids to the game, right?
I think if you're an AD, those games are cheaper, and the average fan cannot tell the difference between Louisiana Lafayette and Northwestern State. Like the average person buying tickets. Now, like the average listener of this podcast is probably like a top 1% of 1% of college ball diehard, especially if you're watching a podcast live in June. We appreciate the tailgate. You guys are awesome. But like your average fan out there buying tickets, they don't know the difference between these G5 teams and the FCS teams. They just don't.
They don't know that DeZormo was born in this. That he's
Correct.
been a Cajun ride or die, and he's going to bring them ready to go.
It's just good business to save money and bring on like the really crappy team. Like they're all to these fans crappy, whatever, right? Like it. Yeah.
All right. And then let's go with Brad. This morning, I listened to the 24/7 episode with Coop and the team from yesterday, and man, Nebraska over 7.5 is enticing. Now, I found this interesting because I don't think we've talked a lot about Nebraska here in the last several weeks as we think about the Cornhuskers going into a year where, Matt Rule undeniably took a step forward last year, and there were moments and flashes that you were really excited about, but final result, everything everything taken with a little bit of space. There's a lot of room forward, and going over 7.5 would be a jump up, one that Nebraska fans want to see. So what do we think in terms of Nebraska over 7.5? And is there something to any buzz that's being built about a big step forward year?
So I think the worry about Nebraska is I don't know if they have like upper half Big Ten bodies on the D-line.
That's not good.
They lost big time guys there on the D-line. Not all like NFL guys, but like guys who were really good college players. And go back to that Colorado game where they just whipped Colorado with kind of like a 3-man rush sometimes. They need Dane Key to catch the ball really well in a way that he didn't do at Kentucky, right? Like that's their guy they're kind of banking on. O-line, could be better. They lost Tony White, the D coordinator at FSU. We'll see how well they do replacing that. I do think they made a massive coordinator upgrade.
Offensively.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
So like I do think that Raiola could be primed for a jump, but I do see a significant step back for the defense based on personnel this year. So they're going to need him to make that jump to hold serve with what they did last year as far as quality of play. Now, if they win a few more close games, they could certainly improve in the win column quite a bit, I think. That's my notes on Nebraska here. But
isn't it crazy?
Nebraska games will be pointy this year, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, wasn't that why they ran off Scott Frost with the run possession games and the close games losses? I mean, last year, almost all their losses were they got blown out by Indiana, but all the other ones were within reason. I think I like the over 7.5. I think they're going to be better on offense. And I think some of the signs you saw yesterday do have to figure out how to win some of those close games. But I mean, they were competitive. And I think Dylan Raiola is going to be better too. I mean, he got a little bit of interest. They have to do a better job protecting him.
Like Cincy will score on them in that first game. I'm fairly confident. Like that's not a walkover. Cincy will score.
You know where that game is? It's an Arrowhead.
Yeah, exactly.
What an odd. Yeah. It's one of those games where, again, just right from the vibes bucket, I might set it aside, right? I might just sort of like whatever happens in that game, we'll just see. But
looking at this, it's very dependent to me on what those middle four teams are.
Yeah.
Like there is a chance in which they sweep Michigan State, at Maryland, at Minnesota, Northwestern. You need to go, if you want to go over this, I think you have to go a minimum of 3-1 in that stretch. 2-2, I think you're dead pretty much. Right. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Akron, Houston Christian are dubs. You'll be favored at UCLA probably, but not by like a ton. I don't think. We don't know what Gronowski will be health-wise for Iowa, the new quarterback they got, who I know they're really high on. At Penn State, probably not going to be a real easy one there. USC, I guess we'll see what the quarterback. We'll see. But if Michigan State, Maryland, and Northwestern really, really suck, and you get the one in Minnesota, then I think you're cooking. You're looking it over.
All right. And again, Beach Wine Guy jumped in and said, imagine showing over 7.5 is enticing to a Nebraska fan 20 years ago. My how things have changed. All right. Coming up on the other side, keep the comments rolling in the tailgate. We will continue with your questions and our answers and more next.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure.
Just try to keep up.
Every face-off.
This ends now.
And every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to the show. Chip's taking care of some housekeeping on the home front. Yeah, it's just me and you, bud. I don't have any of the mailbag questions in front of me. Do you have anything that you have up?
Let's run through the chat here. Chat questions. Oh, we have some starred chat questions. Nice. We already got the 3-peat question. Okay, we need some more starred chat questions. Has there been any word lately about the new Pac-12? Doesn't feel like they have enough teams yet, but still been silent ever since their last announcement. Danny, you heard anything about that on the radio?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were over the threshold, right? Didn't they get to the 8 that's necessary? And a couple of those were made, formalized. I know they had to officially apply, but Boise State and a couple others had made it official. I think there is movement. In fact, did you notice? I noticed this when they had a press release that was put out by the power conferences. It was included in the press release with the logo of ACC, SEC, Big 10, and Big 12, and it also said Pac-12, which that's where I kind of draw the line. I think they're going to survive, but I don't think they should be considered a power conference. I think they're going to have to do something with the language there. They're loving it. Trust me, they want to be called a power conference, but I don't think with the current makeup that they're going to have of teams, I don't think it's going to be worthy of being a power conference.
That makes a lot of sense. I have not seen anything new on that, but I'll look around this weekend and we'll see what we can find. Do you have any thoughts on what the average? What is this? What was the debate online? That like what a 15 handicap would shoot playing this setup at Oakmont?
Handicap. Yeah, 18
handicap.
And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't care what an 18. I want to know what a scratch golfer would shoot. Like a good amateur player or a 5 handicap. I would be curious to know what
like a scratch who hits it like 275 sea level. Like a
really good player who's clearly not a pro, maybe played in college and kind of hangs around and plays, at the club. I got to play Beth Page the day after Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship there. Played from the same tees. Here's the thing I think with a scratch golfer where I think it get interesting. You can play for the score. Like if you're not playing to win or just go as low as you can and they set a total at 88 or something like that, you can just play for bogeys. Like you can not hit driver off the tee, try to just make sure you're getting out of there bogey. It's definitely, the course, I'm not trying to diminish what the course is. And I do think an 18 would shoot well over 100, but I think saying they'd shoot 150 in some of these numbers, I think not all 18s are built the same.
Right.
If it's a little old lady who's an 18, she's dead in the rough. But if you get some guy who's a little bit burly, can just take a wedge and hack it out to the fairway, then I think you could see him, be 120-ish, somewhere in there.
I think that's fair. All right, we got some actual football questions in the chat now. Who do you think will be the G5 rep in this college football playoff this year if it's not Boise?
I've seen some of the odds. Isn't James Madison next up as far as the odds?
They're plus 1,300. Let me see who.
What is Tulane? I'd probably put it on Tulane.
Tulane. Got to scroll up to the American here. So Tulane, I think we thought was they're plus 820.
So they're stronger.
Memphis is 820 as well. Tulane's going to be interesting though because Tulane. We talk about strength of schedule, and we usually talk about strength of schedule within the context of the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
But what about Tulane? Because if you look at Tulane's schedule, Tulane has like 3 power teams they play. Now they're not all good,
right?
But like that's a pretty interesting one. They play they get Duke, they get Ole Miss, and they also get Northwestern, right? And they get Northwestern at home, which is kind of cool. I'm curious as to if they go 1-2 against that group, and then let's say they run through the American with 1 loss, which won't be super easy, I guess, but they do dodge Navy in that league, which is nice. They have to play Army though. And they have to go to UTSA. They have to go to Memphis, right? Like, Denny, if they have 3 losses, but one of the wins are against like Duke or Northwestern, they're probably not going to beat Ole Miss in Oxford, I would think. How do we think that's treated? Like, is the committee actually interested in like deciding that this G5 team is better than that one because their record is different? I don't know.
I mean, they've been told, and they've been, the task is to find the best teams, right? I mean, that's the whole thing they go with. And the scheduling, it's a big conversation we're having with comparing Power 4 teams. So I think it matters on how they look in those games. Like last year, Boise State got a lot of credit for playing Oregon tough. And that was good. That was great. And that kept them like, and I don't know if they had lost another game, what that would have impacted them. But I do think the group of 5, it gets interesting because some of them play more Power 4 opponents than others. And this is a good example of that. But like if they get boat raced by Ole Miss, does that hurt them? But they've had success against Ole Miss in recent, history.
Right. Exactly. I am curious. I think those 3 are probably the most likely 3, but how they treat the losses to some of these P5 teams is going to be interesting. Do you have LSU thoughts early on?
Yeah, I was looking at Tom Fornelli had an article up with Shahan that was buy or sell, and one of the teams was LSU. Are you buying or selling LSU for the hype this season? I am. I think there's a reason Brian Kelly's out there saying this is the best team that he's got. I also feel like this is, maybe it's just LSU. I kind of feel this way about them all the time. Like they're a little bit volatile, but I think it's either kind of boom or bust for them. And when I say bust, I'd say 8 wins. I feel like they're either 10 or 11 wins or 7 or 8 wins.
In some ways, I like how the schedule sets up for them. Now, at Clemson to start the year is certainly not easy, but playing Florida early, who knows? Maybe that helps you. Certainly, playing them at home helps. At Ole Miss, that's still a September game. Now, Ole Miss probably played nobody by that point, and they'll have beaten everybody 50-0, and you don't really know what they have. But Ole Miss has a ton of new parts, so that could be the first like big game, or certainly one of the first like real games that Ole Miss has to face with real athletes. Getting South Carolina at home is nice. At Vandy, Vandy's improved, but certainly, still one that I think you would like if you could pick your road games in conference, that's one you want. Finishing at Oklahoma, I think, is really nice for you potentially. It's also potentially really bad, right? Oklahoma might be buoyed by a nice season, and they're playing playoff spoiler for somebody, which you could be the person being spoiled. But also, Oklahoma could. Like, what if they go 6-6 and Venables is fired and half the team is thinking about where we're going to go in the portal next year? Like, that's also certainly within the realm of possibility. I think this is a team that you have to like some, but you do lose a lot on the O-line, and you better have gotten those transfers right. And everybody says nice things about their transfers this time of year, but we'll see when the rubber hits the road. I think I like what they did at receiver a whole lot, maybe some addition by subtraction there ultimately, and maybe the defense is good enough now to where it doesn't really matter what you do with Harold Perkins because I thought he was really miscast last year. I also don't like him in that sort of like nickel star role that I think they're going to play him in. I just think he can't cover at all. So, I mean, he's kind of a duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll see. I think they could be pretty decent, obviously.
I got a phone one for you from the mailbag. Now, I don't have Chip always has who it's from, so I can't shout out whoever left us the 5-star review, which we'd love for you to go do that. But said, we have another build the perfect college football vacation.
Oh, okay.
Request, which me being a golfer, it'd probably tie into somewhere where you could at least get in some golf in the morning. Mm-hmm. I'd also think there would be some places where you could go and weekends that you could go. Like there's something about rivalry weekend. Like if you could tie in a couple games or even if you had private jet access or just the ability in the vicinity to get to multiple games, I think that would be phenomenal. So I was kind of looking at the The Georgia Tech game potential. That was a fun one last year. Maybe the Texas A&M game. That's the Friday, the Black Friday. Those two games are on Black Friday this year. And then following it up somewhere in the South on that Saturday. And shoot, if it was Atlanta, you can play some pretty good golf around there. Potentially early Friday, see the game, next morning travel to one of the rivalry games on Saturday.
I like that a lot. If you did it early enough in the season, I think you could hit like Washington. There's some really nice golf up there in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe you can go play Oakmont if you go to Penn State, right? Is that not that close? But
Pittsburgh.
That'd be go to Pitt. Actually, that'd be a cool weekend. Pitt game. Is there ever a Steelers game and Pitt game on the same weekend?
It's a good question.
The field.
I don't know logistically how hard that would be. I think they try to avoid it, but man, I'm sure it's happened before.
Jerry says Hawaii. Certainly, Hawaii is a really that's a pretty solid one. Corey says all the time there's a Pitt home game with the Steelers home game.
You know what I wish we could say, because there's again great weather, great atmospheres, and one of the most iconic stadiums in the game. I wish UCLA or USC had better game day environments. Because if they had better game day environments, I would say, man, that'd be a great trip. And you could maybe even see potentially both of them or either one, whichever one you picked. The Coliseum, again, it's massive. It's got a lot of history and tradition in it. So that'd be cool to see a USC game there. But they've got some good spots around there.
Which schools have the best affiliated courses?
Florida State is up there.
Yeah, that one is really nice.
Jack Nicklaus just redesigned it, Legacy Golf Club. Like Georgia, Alabama. I know they all have incredible facilities, but I don't know about their actual golf courses themselves. I'm sure they're pretty nice. I just don't know of how elite they are. I know North Carolina has a really cool course on campus there in Chapel Hill. Those would be up there. Clemson has a pretty nice course right close to campus.
I'm sure somebody in the chat's going to point out just some like ridiculous courses that the schools are tied into. There's got to be some privates that are like really good.
The SEC championship, the golf championship, the conference championship takes place at Sea Island. I could be down for that.
That would not suck. Yeah.
It's a pretty good spot.
Does UCF men's golf play at Nona, or do they I know they practice at Twin Rivers, but I wonder if they actually play it at Twin
I think
Rivers.
they have a couple tournaments there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Does Stanford have a nice course? Oh, in
yes,
Indiana.
I played Stanford's golf
Indiana's
course. Stanford has a really cool course. I played that. I called a Stanford game. We went out the day before and played the course. It was really cool. It was awesome.
Richard in the chat wants to know, when does the summer school for Clemson drop? 2 weeks. I'm not just saying it as like that, like legitimately 2 weeks from now.
Oh, perfect. That worked out good.
Yeah. Oakland Hills is near Michigan Stadium. Has been the site of multiple U.S. Opens. That could work, certainly.
Yep. I was just in Detroit. They were talking about Oakland Hills.
That's
how that was the best one out there. I saw Marshall Falk again. The one thing he told me, I was asking him a ton of questions about Colorado and Julian Lewis, and he said, "Oh, he looks good. He's asking the right questions." And I was asking about Caden Salter, and I said, "I'm sure the offense is going to look a little bit different." He goes, "Oh yeah, it's going to look a lot different." That was the one thing he said to me. He said the offense is going to look a lot different. I don't think they're going to be chucking it around all over the place with either one of those QBs.
That summer school was there are going to be a lot of carries this year, I think, for everybody. I also think Salter could have a bounce back.
Yeah,
right.
And he can run.
He
tried to run him.
He tried to transfer out last year. Didn't have. I'm trying to remember. Like, I don't have these specifics on this, but basically, like, just he couldn't transfer, and so he had to go back. And I don't think he wanted to be at Liberty.
Right.
And I don't know how much they wanted him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of like, all right, well, you're good. We got to take you, but like also, like, you don't want to be here. Like, do you want a quarterback in your team doesn't want to be there? If he's actually happy to be at Colorado and focused, then he could have a real bounce back for Colorado. And if he does, that's a guy that can take some real carries.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective too, because I'm sure there's some other players out there, and you start looking around, other guys are making more than me, and I'm stuck here at this place. I'm sure that happens quite a bit.
Is Karsten Creek nice? The Oklahoma State course, because that's a damn good golf team typically.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never played out there.
Dusty's got to know, right? Does Dusty golf?
Yeah, I'll have to ask him. See about that.
All right,
one.
what else do we have here? Jackson says grades still matter for transfers. Yeah, well, credits do. At least somewhat. Like,
just eligibility. GPA not considered.
Credits. Yeah. How did baseball season go this year, Bud? Undefeated in the regular season, and we lost in the championship. So
there you go.
That's solid. We had a two game playoff, and the boys were all talking about facing the Dodgers, right? And I was like, "Hey, we're playing the Braves right now." Like, I pointed to dugout moms, like, you know what she's gonna say if we lose to the Braves? Like, it's not gonna be like, let's go out and get ice cream. It's gonna be like, hey, straight to bath, straight to bed. Like let's focus on beating the Braves first, and then we'll have to be able to. And the Dodgers smoked us like I knew they would, because they have 7 of the 9 All-Stars, for which we have T-ball All-Stars, which is crazy to me, but
right, that's a little bit over the top for sure.
I was like, okay, but kid threw us out from short twice in 1 inning in T-ball.
Wow,
we are in trouble.
That's unheard of.
I was like, guys, just swing hard, have fun. You know,
I'm off to Fort Worth for a national soccer tournament. 12-year-olds playing travel soccer across the country. A little bit ridiculous, but that is where I'm headed as soon as we're wrapping up here, which hopefully is pretty soon, because I got to get to my flight.
All right, we are going to wrap up very soon. Torrey Pines is very close to San Diego State. That would not be a bad trip.
I used to have a great producer and co-host. I played Torrey Pines when I covered a San Diego State game out there. I used to fly in a day early. We'd go out and tee it up. The worst luck ever, though, they had sanded the greens, and they were horrific. Like, I literally could have chipped on the greens. The views were unbelievable. Like, everything's great. It's still a great course. But I was a little bit bummed that they charged me full price to play, which wasn't too expensive, but I thought there should have been a discount for the conditions that were out there. But yeah, Torrey's phenomenal.
For sure. We did play, we played Fallen Oak in Mississippi recently. That was a good time. It was fun. As a Florida guy, like, the elevation change is always right? Because here it's just, it's flat.
Yep.
Sonny Dykes will get you in at Colonial in Fort Worth.
Ooh. I wasn't going to bring the golf clubs, but maybe now I'll have to hit up old Sonny and see if we can get that.
Oh, man. What else do we have today? You're out at 55. Any parting thoughts for the audience? We have one. We have anything let's talk about what we have coming up for summer school. So today is the 12th. Summer school is coming up tomorrow. Syracuse and Pitt, a little old Big East rivalry. And then the 14th, that's Saturday, Cal Stanford. On the 15th, that Colorado summer school we teased paired up with Arizona State. On the 17th, that's Tuesday, Washington and Washington State. And then on next Friday, Duke and Wake Forest. So some exciting summer schools coming up for sure. And we always hold a couple back for that July 4th weekend, because, that isn't working.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Enjoy the U.S. Open. Let's go, Bryson. He's my lead horse in my pool. But JJ Spawn, I got him in one of the tiers, so hopefully he can keep it up.
Who did I get? I got outbid on everybody, and I think Neiman is the best guy I got, but I'm pretty deep. I might win the overall team thing. I'm not going to win the overall individual. All right, dude.
All right. Have a great weekend. See you, everybody.